Here's something you won't hear anywhere else. Tucked away in a quiet corner of England, there's a workshop so strange, so full of secrets, that it feels like stepping into another universe. This isn't your average garage with a toolbox and a few spanners. This is where Guy Skid Wilson bends the laws of engineering, turns junk into jaw-dropping machines, and hides away builds that most of the world has never even seen. People whisper about it like it's some kind of mechanical Area 51. Inside, you'll find homemade machines that look like they belong in a mad scientist's movie, bikes that roar like thunder, and experiments that defy everything you thought you knew about motorcycles. And before we dive deeper, let's make a deal. Smash that subscribe button like you're smashing a stubborn bolt with a rusty spanner. It'll help you keep up with every wild story from the hidden corners of the automotive world. But here's the real question. What exactly goes on in Skid's secret workshop? And why has it become such a legendary mystery? Well, let's start with the man himself. Guy Skid Wilson isn't your average bike builder. He's a living contradiction, part artist, part engineer, part showman. While most builders follow trends, Skid creates them. Back in the 70s, when the UK custom scene was mostly chrome Harleys and flashy paint jobs, Skid was in a shed using aircraft scrap and car engines to build one-off monsters. He earned the nickname Skid after sliding a homemade trike straight across a festival field, sparks flying, crowd roaring. Since then, the name stuck, and so did his reputation for fearlessness. Unlike many builders who seek fame or money, Skid always built for shock value. If people gasped, laughed, or even ran away in terror, he knew he had succeeded. But here's the thing, the madness isn't random. There's a genius hiding behind that wild beard and greasy hands, and it shows in the strange tools he surrounds himself with. Step into Skid's workshop, and it's like walking into a parallel universe of engineering. Forget neat snap-on toolkits. His tools look like they were stitched together during a power outage. He has a welder powered by an old farm generator, a frame jig made out of scaffolding poles, and a lathe that looks older than some countries. Yet somehow these Frankenstein contraptions get the job done better than factory-made machines. One of his most famous inventions is the Wilson Wobbler, a bike stand that spins a full motorcycle frame 360 degrees. It looks ridiculous, but it lets him weld and shape from angles other builders can't even attempt. And then there's his pride and joy, a grinder powered by a washing machine motor. When someone asked him why he did it, Skid shrugged and said, because it was lying there and it wanted to be a grinder. Sounds crazy? Wait until you hear what he actually builds with these contraptions. Inside that workshop are bikes that make you question reality. One of his early legends was the double-engine trike, built from two Rover V80s bolted together. The exhaust note alone could wake the dead. When he revved it up for the first time, nearby houses reported their windows rattling. Then came his jet-powered motorcycle, which he built from a discarded aircraft turbine. At one custom show, he fired it up and nearly melted the banners behind him. People didn't just hear it, they felt it, like standing in front of a rocket launch. But not everything he builds is about power. Some of his creations are pure art, like his skeletal bike, made entirely from hand-bent steel tubes that looked like a mechanical ribcage. It wasn't just a ride, it was a rolling sculpture. But here's the kicker, these outrageous builds actually work. And that brings us to the secrets of his engineering. Skid may look like he's winging it, but his builds are rooted in clever engineering. He loves reusing parts in ways no manual would ever suggest. For example, he once used helicopter rotor bearings to create a custom steering system. The result, a smoother turn radius than many production bikes. He also hides fuel tanks in unusual places, sometimes under the seat, other times built directly into the frame tubing. This isn't just a party trick, it changes the weight distribution and gives his bikes incredible handling. And let's not forget hydraulics. In one jaw-dropping project, Skid built a bike that could squat down or rise up like a low-rider car at the push of a button. Completely impractical? Sure. But unforgettable? Absolutely. And if you're wondering how he even funds these experiments, that's where his underground economy comes into play. Here's the part most people don't know. Skid rarely builds for cash. Instead, he operates almost like a barter king. He's been known to trade a full custom build for land, barns, or rare parts. One time he built a bike in exchange for a friend's collection of vintage aircraft gauges. He's also notorious for not selling some of his best builds at all. His philosophy: if I sell it, I lose it, and then what's the point? That's why many of his wildest machines are still tucked away in his workshop, never released to the public. This has created a sort of underground myth. People whisper that hidden in his shop are bikes so wild, so insane, that they'll never see the light of day. But what's really inside that mysterious workshop? Let's open the door a little further. Calling it a workshop feels wrong. Skid's place is more like a time capsule mixed with an art gallery. The walls are plastered with old race posters, shelves sag under decades of tools, and tucked between projects you'll find strange mechanical experiments that were abandoned halfway through. Visitors say it feels like walking through a living museum of British custom culture. Some bikes sit fully finished, gleaming like they're ready for a show. Others are just skeletons of ideas waiting for the right spark to be completed. And here's the eerie part. In the far corners, covered under dusty tarps, are shapes that no one's ever been allowed to photograph. Skid laughs them off when asked, but the rumours say those might be his most radical unreleased builds. But what drives a man to live like this, half genius, half recluse? The answer lies in his philosophy. For Skid, building isn't about practicality, it's about impact. He once said, "Anyone can make a bike that gets you to the shops. I want to make bikes that make people's jaws drop." This philosophy explains his obsession with theatrical builds. He doesn't just want you to see a bike, he wants you to feel it. That's why he builds things that roar like thunder, glow with flames, or look like they came from another planet. And his philosophy doesn't stop with bikes. He applies it to life. Skid loves shocking people, whether it's by pulling a prank, firing up a jet engine in a car park, or showing up at a rally with something so outrageous it silences the entire crowd. But here's the real twist. His philosophy has turned him into more than a builder, it's made him a legend. Many British custom builders today grew up inspired by Skid's antics. His willingness to use scrap parts and his refusal to play by the rules opened doors for a new generation of creators. Some even say the rise of extreme show bikes in the UK, those wild creations with oversized engines and bizarre designs, traces directly back to Skid's early work. And it's not just bikes. His approach to improvising tools and reusing junk has influenced fabricators in cars, hot rods, even aviation restoration. Skid proved you don't need millions to innovate, you just need imagination. But let's go deeper. What's the dark side of being a legend? That's where things get complicated. Being an underground icon isn't easy. Skid's projects are expensive, time-consuming, and often dangerous. He's had more than his fair share of near misses. Stories of engines exploding mid-test, frames bending under power, and flames shooting out where they weren't supposed to. But he shrugs it off with humour. "If nothing blows up, it means I wasn't trying hard enough," he once joked. And yet behind the laughs, there's a cost. Some say he's sacrificed financial stability, mainstream recognition, and countless hours of his life chasing ideas that may never be finished. But to Skid, that's the price of true freedom. Still, he's left behind a treasure that no one can take away: his stories. When you step into Skid's workshop, you're not just looking at bikes, you're looking at decades of creativity, rebellion, and stubborn individuality. Each machine tells a story. Some of success, some of failure, all of pure passion. People often say when Skid's workshop doors finally close for good, it should be preserved as a museum, because it's not just a collection of bikes, it's the soul of a movement. And maybe that's why the legend of Guy Skid Wilson keeps growing, because while other builders chase fame, Skid built something far more valuable, a world that inspires curiosity, laughter, and awe. So what have we uncovered? A workshop that feels like a living museum, tools that shouldn't exist, machines that defy logic, a barter economy that keeps the wheels turning, and above all, a man whose philosophy of shock has shaped generations. Guy Skid Wilson reminds us that real creativity isn't about money or rules. It's about daring to see potential in scrap, to laugh at danger, and to chase ideas that make the world stop and stare. Factories may build motorcycles, but Skid builds legends on wheels, and that's a story worth remembering.